Hello, I'm online. Is your audio on? I'm not hearing you.
Hello, hello, hello. I think this will work.
Okay, I hear that now. I heard hello, hello, hello.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Um, good. Now we're all good to go, right?
I'm just gonna rate the Zoom people.
I hear you. Thank
Good.
you.
Fantastic. Okay, so we hear you. Sorry about that.
Hi guys, you can hear me? Oh, and this is great. Hi everyone. I'm gonna kind of just backtrack. I'm Kelly Quealy. I work for the DA's office. For those of you that I'm just meeting today, I call myself a leftover because I worked for the previous administration and now I work for Rob. I've been there for 15 years, so that obviously overlaps where Mr. Galibois came in. I have sat in pretty much every position in the office at some point. I've been an admin, I've been a victim witness advocate at points. I've done grand jury. I've worn a lot of hats, but so far this has been probably the bigger challenge that I've ever had because when Mr. Galibois was running, he ran on two things. Number one, a mental health court, which was very much needed here on the Cape. And number two was my position, which was a community engagement officer, and the need for more engagement in the community from the DA's office, because very few people knew what we did, and what they did think of us was very negative, right? So as time went on, he got into office and he started interviewing for this position, and I was on the panel for the interview. And we were meeting with person after person after person after person, and they're all terrible. And I was like, these people stink, like it just, if I'm being honest with you, like, can I try? And he was like, perfect, because I've lived here my whole life. I'm not a wash ashore. I'm a Cape Codder through and through. I went to high school here, grew up here. My children are growing up here. I live locally, and I'd already been in the office and know how things work mechanically, even though there was obviously changes that needed to be made. So it seemed like a natural kind of progression of things, and so far it's been great. This is our second quarterly meeting for Eastham. We've had one before. We've already risen in numbers, but dramatically, which is awesome. I actually had a county in Buffalo, New York, reach out to me that they had seen my Brewster poster on their website and were like, how did you start this program? And now they're starting one in Buffalo, which I think is really cool. But there was really no way for me to gauge whether it was successful or not, right? Because it had never existed before. So I just kind of started boots to the ground, went to the different towns, and was like, who will meet with me? Fabulous. All of you wonderful people did. Some places I got 3 people, some places I got 25 people. It just really depends also on the size of the town, right? And how each town is very individually different. And a lot of people would even go as far as to identify with the village that they live in within the town. So because of that, and because everybody kind of has their own identity and each town has their own identity, we wanted to start this so that we're sure that we have a pulse on everything that's going on. We get a very negative connotation a lot of what the Cape encompasses, right? Because we deal with all of the crime and the this and the that and the other thing. We need to also be serving the people in the community who are not on our radar, right? Who are, because they're just as important, if not more important than the people that are on our radar. Because a healthy community is a safer community. All of those things, it's all very cyclical. So that's really what the goal of this is and what our goal in the office is. So what I'm here to do is kind of update you right now on what we've been doing this year, what we have going on, answer questions, things of that nature. And then in our third quarter meeting, I'll be bringing in an Eastham police officer so that you can hear from their perspective as to policing and how it's changed for them and all of that stuff. So we'll touch on all of that today. So more recently, so this paper that I hand out, and I'll leave these materials here at the council for you so that you can pick them up whenever you want to, or what next time you're in. But we had applied for grant funds for $129,420, which we did receive, which was fabulous. And all of that went to, and I was saying to them earlier, any grant funds that we receive at our office never stay in our office. They all go to either outside partnerships, PDs, so that they can get, special programming, cameras, things of their nature. This time we did a big suicide prevention and awareness push because the numbers are high, especially amongst our young people. So Sharing Kindness is an outlet that deals with grief counseling of all sorts. So suicide, people that you may lose, family members that you may lose to natural causes, unnatural causes, a lot of opioid death, but they have programming for kids, adults, teenagers, which is rare, and we wanted to see them flourish. They also started a program called Hope Squad, which they have trained kids. They have kids that volunteer, and they train them to identify the risk factors of suicide and have them be in the schools and down on the ground saying, hey, I think this person's really having a tough time. I think someone should check in with them. And I think it's prevented teen suicides across the Cape, which has been really huge. So we gave a good amount to Sharing Kindness. The Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition is tied in with them, obviously. Cape Cod Community College, because they are working on programming for mental health clinicians and through their nursing programs. And so we need all of those people here to stay on the Cape. We need to start flourishing and letting these people find a place here, right? We want all of these people to come and help our services, but it's impossible to live here. So we have to start training people that are here and start letting our own people that are already established here and have homes here and don't have to move from off Cape in order to find these employees. We need those people to come into our workforce a little bit more. So that was the goal of that. And then Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, of course, is pretty, self-explanatory. They're wonderful. They do so much, and they do so much for the kids who are not victims of gun violence, but maybe their family members are, some sort of gun violence has happened in their home, and the services that they get for those kids is just really incredible. So
is that a nationwide program?
It is a nationwide program. This is just their local chapter. Yep. And then, so mental health court, that's where I wanted to go with this, and where we were starting to chat was the mental health crisis, I will call it a crisis, has hit the Cape really hard. And we really don't have the services here to provide for people that are in need. A couple of really horrible facts that I have to share with you is we don't have a single mental health bed on the Cape for anyone under the age of 18, which is pathetic, really, if you think about it, right? With our ongoing year-round population, that if a child needs to be, let's go back, sectioned, which I'll explain to you. So a section 12 would be a mental health section. A section 35 would be a drug-related section. So if you called and you said, my child is having a mental health crisis, they're threatening to kill themselves, I think they're going to hurt themselves or others, and then the police respond, and you petition for that child to be section 12 at the court, if that child goes into hospital care, long-term care, it is off Cape. The closest one is Worcester, which you can only imagine does to the child's psyche, right? That now they are abandoned. Now they are alone. And also the unfortunate then flow of how do the parents afford to get out there to them when they have other kids in the home? And now we also have the highest population of grandparents raising children. That because of the opioid crisis. So I'm a mother of 6 and 8-year-old. It is challenging, let me tell you, but I can't imagine doing it as a grandparent, right? Who is so far removed probably from the way that kids are living and growing and doing now that with the best of intentions, they want to love that child, but we're just not equipped to. So I have an example of that actually. So I do the juvenile diversion program as well at our office. And the juvenile diversion program is when a youthful person commits a crime. So usually a non-violent misdemeanor, but assault and batteries are a misdemeanor. So like if a fight at school or something like that, but not where they used a weapon or no felonies, things of that nature. We give them the opportunity to enter something in the juvenile diversion program. And what I do is I have them accept responsibility for what it is that they did. They sign a contract with me that they will be part of this 6-month-long program where they have to do community service, a letter of apology, usually to either the other party or whatever property they damaged, or depending on the case, counseling, certain online courses. If it's a driving thing, it would be a driving course. If it's an A and B or a fight at school, it would be an anger management course, something along those lines. If they complete all of those things in the 6 months, that charge does not go on their record, but it's a one-stop shop. You get one chance. There's no, if you offend while you're doing it, you're automatically terminated. If you offend again, you don't get another opportunity to be in diversion. That happens once. So I had a girl who was 15 years old. She came to me. She had been charged with assault and battery, 3 counts for a fight that she had at school. One of the counts was against another girl, and the third, or 2 of the counts were against another girl, and the third count was against a teacher. Because in process of getting to the other girl, a teacher got hit. So we sit down and we have a conversation. Clearly this girl she's hurting, right? She's very combative. Her arms are crossed. Her body language is telling me that she is not receptive to hearing what it is that I want to say. But when I see a teenager like that, I know it's not because she's evil or rude. It's because she's dealing with something that is beyond her emotional capacity, right? So we we're trying to get to the bottom of these things so that we make sure that we're proactive in the whole process. And we're talking, and it turns out that more recently at her school, she had been a victim of sexual assault. That's how that fight started, because those girls were taunting her based on this other situation, right? So we take the time to kind of figure out what it is that's causing this behavior. Is she inherently an evil, bad kid? No. Is she acting out based on her experience? Yes. So I decide to take her into the diversion program. We decide that she needs counseling. Absolutely. She's having a very hard time and she's going through things that she really needs somebody to kind of get in order for her. While she's processing, grandfather calls me, and because he's raising her and her other 4 siblings, because her parents are addicted to drugs and not in the picture. So there's another compounding factor that this poor girl deals with all the time. She's 15. So again, when we're able to cope with our anger as adults, we have to remember not a 15-year-old, right? I mean, who we were at 15 is very different than who we are now. So grandfather calls me, says, I'm concerned. She's in her room. She's threatening that she doesn't want to live anymore. And this, and the other thing. He said, you need to call the police. You need to, because I don't want her to hurt herself. She's not opening the door. So we call the police. And bring her to the court. The clinician meets with her and decides she needs to be sectioned. She should not be home at her own fruition because we don't know what she's capable of. Well, then they put her in a bed in Worcester. Grandpa has 3 other kids at home that he's raising. He's living on his Social Security, right? Which we all know is pennies. He has no means to get up to her at all. I've gotten him a few bus vouchers like through the office that, we can do that way. But then the kids are left unattended here. He really doesn't have the ability to go out there. And so to me, we're doing that child a disservice. But at the same time, what was the option, right? So we're putting people between a rock and a hard place, and then we're like, choose. And that's just a really crappy place to be. So number one, we need more mental health support. Absolutely, for our youth. I mean, are way below that, but we need it for our adults as well, because our adults are not able to serve our youth because they are also in crisis. an interesting fact is the entire Cape Cod, we have one homeless shelter. We are kidding ourselves if we think that we only need one homeless shelter. We have no shelters here on the Cape if it's a single father with children. There is nowhere that he can live with his kids. If it's a single mother with children, yes, but there are instances where we have a dad who's living alone with his kids, and if he's losing housing, there are no shelters that will support him because they won't allow men in. So we are lacking in so many places because the Cape, I think when, you know, our big state delegates look at things, they're like, oh, that's that vacation town down there. We don't get the same thought process, even though if you compared our numbers to Northwestern, which is out in Western Mass, we have more. Their budget was $3 million more than ours was. Our numbers, we have more numbers in crime stats. We have more numbers in the amount of towns that we encompass. We have more district and superior courts than they have. Yet our budget is just, it's about $3 million less than another area where they think that it's better delegated there. I would say, I would beg to differ, just based on what I see all the time. So what can we do about it? Because obviously we can't build institutions and we can't do any of those things, but this was the last district that didn't have a mental health court. Silly, just absolute silliness. So Rob, DA Galibois, went to the Raj, if you will, our head judge in Barnstable, his name is Judge Julian, and said, I really think we need this here. I think we need to be talking about why people commit the crimes that they do to prevent recidivism instead of just lock them up and throw away the key. Clearly that's not working, right? Because we're not figuring out the underlying issue. We implemented that last year. Sean Souvet is an ADA who works specifically with that. And what it is if you commit a crime, again, a non-violent misdemeanor, so we're not talking felonies where people have guns and things like that. You can go in and petition to be evaluated for mental health court. And if that happens, you meet with clinicians, they decide, they talk to you, we figure out what's going on, what the underlying issues are, things of that nature. And then instead of the normal criminal process, you come in more often. You're checking in with your clinician, you have to abide by certain probationary rules. They're checking in on you, there's follow-up. And then after that, if you complete that, it would be continued without a finding. That's a positive outcome on your record. So it's almost like an adult diversion program to what I do. It's get it off of your record, but it's a much more pleasant disposition, if you will, for your record if you ever want to be employed or anything like that, that if anybody was going to run it. And it doesn't keep you from getting housing. It doesn't keep you from getting any of the other things that you need, like a default warrant would if you just left it open. So we implemented that. Every court on Cape Cod can come to that mental health court, which is in Barnstable. So we only have the one in Barnstable, but we have Orleans District Court, Falmouth District Court, Nantucket District Court, Edgartown District Court, Edgartown Superior Court, Barnstable Superior Court. I mean, Nantucket Superior Court, we house a lot of places. They can refer to us, but they don't have them on their own individual places. So we're working on that. What Martha's Vineyard did implement was a recovery court. So if the crimes were constantly possession, and we know that it's because the person has a using issue, they're not trafficking drugs, they're not selling it to others, they could be a participant of the recovery court. And that is similar to mental health, but you're doing drug screens all the time, making sure that you're clean, checking in, you have to do clean urines and all of those things. And if that happens, again, a better disposition for you in the end. So we're trying to implement those things wherever we can, but again, only so much you can do. And with that comes, we're trying to, our new grant writing situation is for social workers and the PDs, which I was just touching with them, because as we know, our towns, hi there, our towns fund our PDs, right? So it's not state funded. Each town funds their PD, and they also decide where all of their monies are delegated. So if the town doesn't feel as though the money should be delegated to a social worker, the PD doesn't get the social worker. That's just how it works. They pay those officers, they pay their salaries, they keep the PD running. So if they don't see an importance for it, we can't go ahead and implement it, which is why we apply for grant funds to then give to the PDs in hopes that they'll use that money, and a lot of times they do, to hire these people or have these people with them. Falmouth PD, they worked it into the budget. Smart. They have 2 social workers on staff that work for the PD, and they go out to calls, and the goal is to de-escalate and avoid an arrest. When sometimes when we're talking to towns and to PDs, they feel like that's an attack on them. Well, we want them arrested. We want criminals arrested. But not every situation calls for that, right? We can have situations in a home, domestic situations, somebody suffering from something. Wouldn't it be better if a social worker comes and answers to that, as opposed to a police officer whose training is to be on the defensive, whose training is to shoot if you're threatened, right? We're talking about 2 totally different ways to approach a situation, and why police should not be asked to do that, and why we then as a society go, well, those damn police are so violent, and you go, we're giving them something that they're not able to handle, and then we're saying you're failing at it. That, I mean, we're giving them something outside of their scope. Now, should their training and de-escalation tactics probably change? 100%. But we're also asking these rookie kids who are 23, 24, just get out of the academy, and for the past 8, 9 weeks that they've been in the academy, they're like, if you're in imminent danger, shoot. And then we send them to these house calls or to these situations where they're not able to gauge how serious the situation is, or, I mean, we wouldn't just meet a random 20-year-old out in the street and hand them a gun and go, do what you think, right? So our process is backwards. We're training people to be on the defense, are not arming them with the defenses they really need to be handling those things, and that's a social worker or someone who has some sort of experience that they can try to de-escalate a situation before it turns into that. Falmouth last year took 237 mental health calls that those 2 women responded to, and none of them resulted in an arrest. That's huge. But what's also great about that is if that social worker has that license, they can do follow-up to all 237 of those. They can call back and say, hey, we responded to your house. Have you gotten counseling? Have you gotten help? Can I refer you to these services? It's just such an important implementation that I think needs to be in police departments everywhere. I think it's especially the state of where we're at right now. So we are working on all of those things. Grant writing, mental health, social workers, us. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'm just talking at you. Are we okay? Okay, good. So the previous administration, let's backtrack. It's weird that the DA's office is a political position anyway, as far as I'm concerned, only because we fall within the parameters of mass general laws, right? Like, really, your opinion shouldn't have so much bearing on the running of the office. Republican, Democrat really shouldn't matter, except in their social programs. It obviously changes dramatically. So the previous administration, who I worked for a long time, didn't have the same emphasis on community things as this administration does. So you'll see it when you look into these packets, but we do like a community application now for community support funds. So we petitioned to the state to give us an allotted amount they give us every year, whatever they can, but it was 45,000 this year. And that is to be delegated out to people that put in a community support fund. And we usually give up to about $5,000 for anything that we possibly can to those. The one most recently though, which I think is also too bad that it went out of business. I don't know if you guys have even heard of it down here, is Calmer Choice, which was a program that was going into schools. Fabulous. I mean, they just did incredible work, and unfortunately funding is gone. So they're closing their doors. So we can't keep things like that afloat with our community support funds because we just get such a small amount. But we try to delegate those to those kinds of, small nonprofit here on the Cape that really need to flourish. And so when in doing that, so where I'm going with that is we met the women from PATH, which is People Against the Trafficking of Humans. They had applied for community support funds and they were granted the funds, and they work with humans who are trafficked. And so we have a very big human trafficking initiative in our office because we had never touched on it here on the Cape before. A lot of times when people hear human trafficking, they think of kids in cages with chains. No, that is not what human trafficking is. I mean, I'm sure that does happen, but that's not what we're looking at. Human trafficking is actually the exploitation of a person. So that can be in so many other facets, right? It can be employment exploitation, it can be sexual exploitation, it can be any of those things. So we started a human trafficking task force at the office. This was prompted by Rob going to another community outreach. So this is, I'm just tying it in so you see like what, this is how we get our ideas. It's literally from reaching out to all of you guys. He went to Great Awakenings coffee shop where they were having a survivor of human trafficking was speaking. And her story was so incredible about like from young age, how she was trafficked as a young person. Hi.
Hi, I'm delivering lunch. Where do I go?
Upstairs, backside, go around the building,
I'm going around there. Great.
and you park right by the ramp out there.
Cool. Got it.
Clifford knows.
That's it, my number one.
He went to a coffee shop where he listened to a survivor of human trafficking speak. She had been trafficked as a little girl, unfortunately, sexually. She, at age 7, killed her trafficker herself. She stabbed him. She went into a life of prostitution where she was made to do all kinds of horrible things. She was forced into 3 different abortions. And through all of this and through all of this time, she had all, was living this life. She was going to Bunker Hill Community College because she said, the one thing that my trafficker can't take from me is that. So that was such a, like, holy moly. Like, you think, okay, these people are like on street corners and no, these people are teachers. These people are, one woman that got up and spoke, she was an elementary school teacher who on the weekends, her trafficker would take her to another city, sell her for the weekend, and then bring her back, and on Monday morning she was in class. And you go, oh, wow, this is something we need to get our hands on now, right? And let them know that we are aware of it and that it's happening, and it's happening here, and it's happening. I'll tell you, the job exploitation is really a problem here as well. Like with our J1 students, they come here, they're promised, an apartment, they're promised you'll live close to wherever it is that you work, you'll have nice accommodations, you'll barely have to pay anything, you'll have plenty of money to go back with at the end of the summer. No, they come here, they're packed into rooms full of like 15, 20 people, they're still paying that same rent amount, but those people that brought them here sponsored them, so they can't go tell on them, which those people very much know. That's the exploitation of a person, right? So that's something we need to be on top of, because those kids are getting exploited. They are, they're putting them in bunks. That's not how they work. That's not what they agreed to when they came here. I'm not saying they decided they were going to come live in the lap of luxury, but that was not the initial. So in starting to like look at all this stuff and look at all these people and talk to survivors and how normal their everyday lives were, but then they had this like whole dark side and things that they were facing, we're like, we got to do something about this. So we started a task force. That task force included Independence House. They're in Hyannis. They deal with DV. It's a DV shelter and DV help for women, men, anybody. We had PATH, which were the people against the trafficking of humans. We had the DA's office. Barnstable PD has a woman who federally works with their human trafficking task force. She's a detective for us at Barnstable. She's on our task force. And we decided, how do we navigate this here? How do we let people know that, because we needed people to know that if you're a prostitute or, you're scared of coming forward because you think that you would be prosecuted, that you're not who we're after, right? Like you're not the goal. We want to know why, who's driving you to do this work, what's happening, who are you answering to, who are you giving 20% to? Because we really know that's exactly what the issue is. And getting that word out was very hard because the previous administration was not the same in that mentality. It was very black and white. The law is the law, you broke the law. So we'll see later. There's just too much gray now for us to continue doing that. So as an awareness, I decided so we found out that the jail now houses women. Framingham jail closed. So Barnstable now has a women's unit. Which is actually kind of fabulous, if we're honest, because women used to, if they ever committed crimes here and had to serve sentences, were sent wherever the heck you could find a place for them. And you're like, well, that's not really fair, right? Because they should be able to serve here. But they had an art therapy program up there that they were, of course, they can use limited materials. They can't use like cutting knives and things like that, but painting, drawing, whatever, to help them through their traumas while they're in there. And so we decided to collaborate. And we had them do art projects based on human trafficking. So many of them are victims of it. So many of them are in there for sex crimes. So many of them or have experienced it at some point in their life and are in there for drug offenses because their trafficker got them hooked to the drugs, right? So they submitted all of this art, and I went to the Geiger Barn in Hyannis and I said, would you let us have an exhibit? She was like, yeah, this is great. Very wonderful woman, Christine Ernst. So we set it up. We filled the room with art, and local artists came and they submitted art. It just really touched like a lot of it, the way that it came out. We wrote, okay, people are more aware of this or know that this is a need. Let's keep going on this track, right? So that was great. We had this wonderful initiative, and then we applied for more grant funds to aim at human trafficking. And what can we do? April 10th and 11th, we're having a statewide conference hosted by our office on human trafficking awareness. We have 200 people signed up from across the state to come and talk to these people who we've been dealing with this whole time, to say, we're all seeing this. We're just not sure it's as obvious to all of you as it is to us. So let's do something about this situation. And so far it's been very successful. We also started doing dangerousness hearings. So dangerousness, calling for dangerousness on someone is if you're asking them to be considered dangerous, it's a 58A, it's called. And what that does is it holds someone without the possibility of bail for 90 days. And that's because we have determined, the court has determined, what we have requested and the court has determined, this person is a danger to themselves, others in the community. We never asked for dangerousness on drug offenses prior to this administration. If you got caught trafficking 30 grams of cocaine and 50 grams of fentanyl, your case would be indicted to the Superior Court and could face state prison time, but there was no dangerousness statute that we ever asked for in that situation. That's one of the things that Rob did as soon as he got in, was that we would ask for dangerousness on any trafficking. Since that happened, now I can't say for sure that it's a direct correlation, but I would say I'm pretty damn sure the fatal overdose death on the Cape is down 15%, which is great from the year prior. And that was the year right after we implemented it. Now this year it's down another 20% in fatal overdoses. Are they still overdosing? Yes. I mean, is that still happening? Yes, but in terms of fatal overdoses. So you assume that's because you take some of it off the street and you hold it for 90 days. And then that person then goes from there to jail or whatever it may be, instead of letting them back out on bail so they continue to do damage and these people keep dying and then we lock them up down the road. Why are we even playing the game, right? We're not playing the game with them anymore, especially with the danger of fentanyl. It's everywhere. Again, anybody questions? Are we good? I'm just talking at you. I do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a huge implementation. And I think that the police departments really appreciated it because they're out there finding these guys, not knowing what they're facing. And they're like, can you take these people off the street so that we can go help people that actually need it? You know, like we keep dealing with these same people over and over and over and over again. And for what? And it's still causing the same damage. Like we either need to be proactive, that's really the goal here, is to be proactive rather than reactive. It's just the approach that number one, we need, and number two is the correct approach to prevent recidivism. And that's what we should be doing. We don't want numbers. If our numbers are high, we're not in a good place, right? We don't want to pad numbers. We want our numbers lower because we want to prevent recidivism. We want to prevent this from this horrible hamster wheel that keeps happening. So I like to tell the story too, and I may have told you guys last time that, because I have updates from Michael in my homeless court, which is fabulous. But when I was first starting this program, I had opened it up to Barnstable and I said, anybody come down and talk to me, because I'm right in Barnstable Village, right? So let's see how this goes. And this man, Michael, who sleeps in the bus station at the court complex, came down and talked to me for hours. Great chat. He's homeless. He's obviously mentally ill. He thinks that Fox News and Donald Trump stole $3 million from him. He's adamant that it was them. I'm not going to fight him about it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. That's not my jurisdiction at all. And we had conversations for hours. And he then says to me, Kelly, the reason that more people that I hang out with don't come to court and remove their default warrants or do the right thing is because there's no bus that gets us back to St. Joseph's in time for shelter that night if you spend your day here at court. I never would have known that. I don't walk the streets. I don't take buses. I'm very lucky, very privileged, right? I have a car. I get to drive and move around in free will whenever I want to. I go, you know, that's crazy to me. That really should be something that we're talking about because we have one shelter here. It's a dry shelter, which has its benefits and its downsides, right? Because it obviously excludes a lot of people from being able to get shelter because they're not dry, but it also keeps the people within the shelter safer. So it's a catch-22. So I happened to have a meeting at Duffy that week, which is our health center for the homeless in Hyannis. And we talked about a homeless court and saying, would a judge be willing to zoom in here to Duffy once a month so that these people that are already here receiving care can go in and go, I think I have a warrant that's making it so that I can't get housing, I can't get food stamps, I can't get any of these things because I have this warrant on my record when I robbed Bradley's back in 1985. Can we do something about this? And the judge loved it, and Duffy loved it. So that starts in like a couple weeks that the judge is going to do. So what will happen is the person can put in, say, I have these warrants, I'm not sure where they're at. We have a defense attorney look at them before we do, so it's for their protection, so that we don't find out anything that we're not supposed to. Everybody deserves counsel, even though some of them I don't think deserve it, but that's my personal opinion and not anybody else's, right? Then they present it to us and they go, hi, this guy has been homeless for A, B, and C, and D. He was arrested back in 1990 for stealing from JCPenney or Bradley's or whatever these stores that aren't even open anymore, so they're not going to get restitution. And we're charging him with a misdemeanor, like, and we're not going to get court costs on it because he doesn't have any money. So can we just close it? And the court loved it too, because it's cleaning up backlog that they don't need. We're never going to get the money from these people. Like, give it up, right? You gotta cut your losses somewhere. And it's been great. We've had 25 people apply through Duffy that want to have their records looked at because if they have, and that's scary to people at first. We had to say, like, I had to get a woman from the Committee for Public Counsel Service to come in with me. Her name's Nicole Roulette. She's fabulous. And I was like, they don't trust me, right? Like, they think I'm not giving the DA's office my record. Like, oh yeah, here, go look me up. No, I'm never doing that. But to a defense attorney, they would, right? So she sat with me and she's like, well, let me look at it. I'm not going to present it to these guys if it's going to lock you up. And then we'll talk about it from there. So through a huge process of talking to people, we all ended up being on the same page about it. It was just a matter of literally putting it together. And that's what these meetings really are for, is like me finding out how do we better help you? How do we fix this situation? And so then I think it comes full circle. So then we start doing that. We implement all of these things in the adult court. And then they said, Kelly, we're short in the diversion program. We have a woman who's been handling it for 30 years, Nora, who's fabulous. She's a wonderful human, absolutely amazing in everything she does. But the capacity of the cases are very different now than when she started. So the kids that used to get taken into diversion were doing minors in possession of alcohol. They were out at parties and they had a beer, right? And you had to make them sign a contract and go through the process. That's not what we're seeing now. We're seeing kids in fights. We're seeing violent crime amongst kids. We're seeing sexual crimes amongst kids. A lot of sexting, which is like sending nudes of yourself to somebody else or via Snapchat and all of these other things that these kids think disappears, but it doesn't really disappear, right? It ends up going to another person's phone or another, and then you're disseminating child pornography. And these kids don't understand the parameters of their actions. So it really forced us to have a conversation as to, are kids getting worse or is crime getting more casual? And I think it's a very serious debate. I don't think kids are getting worse. I think that they're more brazen because you're a lot braver online and behind the screen than you are in person. But I also think crimes have become more casual. I think they see it in everything that they do every day. When I was in high school, if you saw a fight in school, you're like, oh, those kids. Oh, I want anybody on them. Or you see it maybe then a couple months later, there would be another one. Now you can scroll through TikTok or whatever it is and see it. You can search school fights. And it's kids beating each other up. It's kids hitting teachers. It's whatever it is. So these crimes that these kids are committing are just because they don't fully understand the scope, I think. When I'm talking to them, I mean, I had a girl the other day, 12 years old, sat across from me. The police sent her to me because she had told another 12-year-old girl she was going to shove a machine gun up her ass and shoot her head off. Where does a 12-year-old get that? Other than something that she's exposed to, right? She didn't think of that on her own. She's never held a MAC-10. And she's a bedtime of 8 o'clock. Like, we're not fully seeing as how a society we are failing our children by allowing them to be exposed to all of these things, because it's all very casual to them. They don't understand the parameters of what's really happening, right? And I really think that's what it is. So I think the fear mongering is kids are evil and they're out here and they're getting worse and I don't think that's what it is. I do think that they're able to see these things at their fingertips all the time, and it's become a normalcy. They're desensitized to it. They don't feel that same gravity or that same weight. I notice because I also go into the schools for truancy meetings with kids, and we have the parent there and we have the school there. And, we look at it and we said, okay, you've missed 30 days of school. If the DA's office had come into my school when I was 14 or 15, I would have been like, I will be at school every day. That is not what I'm getting. I'm this. In the chair. I'm tired. I don't want to. I don't have to. I have rights.
Wow.
And you go, we have failed you, right? For you to think that you don't answer to anyone. Like, I have to have talks with these kids. I'm not going to that class. I hate that teacher. I said, do you know that if I walked out of my job for hating someone, or I decided I hated someone, I wouldn't be able to walk back in the next day, right? Like, we're not showing them reality. And then we empower them with this. You have rights. You have the right to do the right thing. You don't have the rights to be a complete jerk to everybody. And I think the other thing is because that shift has happened, parents, not knowing how to handle it, want to befriend their children because they feel like that's how they are communicating with them. So then they're not in line with the schools. Like, I've been at those meetings where the girl is sitting here, I'm not going to class, I don't like that teacher, he's awful, he doesn't let me go to the bathroom 8 times. I mean, who goes to the bathroom 8 times in an hour? Of course he doesn't. He knows you're roaming the halls. He's not doing anything wrong. And then the mother chimes into the school and she says, yeah, what is it about that teacher? It seems like everybody hates him. No, you just justified this behavior. We need everybody to come together and be on one page and say, hey, legally, you have to come to school. They allow for 7 days for you to be tired. You're going to be perpetually tired for the rest of your life. I'm always tired. What does that even mean? Right? And then we have to get through this in a more positive manner. We have to expect more. We have to stop expecting less from them, which I think we've gotten very soft on that in that way. We had a 19-year-old juror the other day on a rape trial. The jury had been out for 3 days. They're obviously making a very serious decision. This 19-year-old asked to speak to the judge. I'm really mentally exhausted from this. I want to be removed. What? No, that's not how any of this works. That is not how any of this works. This is where that balance comes in, right? Where you go, yes, we want to help you, but we want to help you the right way. We can't just allow and excuse these kinds of behaviors because an unteachable child is an unemployable adult. And we see that all the time. So we have to, our services for the kids and mental health here on the Cape, which is why I circle back to all this, is just so lacking. And it's so important because they're here now. This is not a summer community. These are full-time families that are growing up and raising their families here. And we are not doing anything by not investing into that right now. I do want to touch on, just because I'm sure it is on people's mind, is the immigration issue and ICE and seeing all of these people. So it's hard because immigration is federal and civil. The DA's office is state and criminal. We're in completely different lanes. We don't, like, literally, if you were on 2 different highways, we don't pass each other, we don't intersect, we don't do any of those things. We also don't contribute to ICE coming and getting people. So we don't take any of that demographic information anyway. We don't keep stats on who's a citizen. When you get, and the police don't ask either. So when you get arrested, your cover sheet that comes into me is your picture, your name, date of birth, phone number, height, weight, age. Nowhere does it say citizenship status. It doesn't come into play. They don't ask you when you get arrested. If you're then arrested and you fingerprint and that pops in ICE's system, yes, they have the right to come get you. We are not reporting to them to come get you. I want to make that very clear, and neither are our local police departments. We are not saying to ICE, we have 85 people here for you to come and get. We don't answer to them, they don't answer to us. But there is an overlying system that once those people are fingerprinted or whatever it is, their identity could pop. And then they face that. But it's not because the DA's office wants to do it. It's not because we want to get rid of anyone, and it's not because we're tattling on anyone. None of those things happen. So like that guy. And I also want to say, I know it's recorded, but off the record. I've been in the criminal justice system for 15 years. I've maybe seen ICE involved in 2 cases ever. The people that I see offending look like us. So the fear that people are trying to put into you, that it's like this Brazilian national charged with rape. I have 50 other white men charged with rape in the same exact courthouse that we're not talking about, right? So I'm not downplaying anybody, but I just don't want it to be a fear tactic that you base your opinion on. It's fear. It's not fact. Because yes, it's very easy to attach ourselves to what's popular in the news, but factually, that's not what's going on in real life. And I think the other thing that we also know from working with a lot of immigrants who come because they apply for U visas, we do that. So if you're a victim of a crime here and you're not a citizen, we apply for the visa for you to be able to stay here throughout the duration of that trial and then afterward. So if anything, we're only trying to help people that are in that situation. We're not here to hurt them. We're not here to deport. So I want that on the record because I know I get it. And people are like, well, in Dennis, there was a huge ICE raid, or there was, but those are not coming like because the DA's office, like, oh, there's a warrant there. Those are coming because they got arrested for something else. They started following them. Now they know that there's a house. Then they've identified 55 other people, and then they wound up taking them. I don't love it, but it's not, it really is not us that's giving them that information. It's not your police departments. They are not the enemy. They have so much to do on their own time. Like the last thing that they want to do is be involved with ICE. And not for nothing, I love my police partners, so don't get me wrong. Ego driven, they're not giving it to another agency. If they find a bust, it's not like we want to call ICE. Barnstable PD wants, they get state funds for those busts, right? Like it doesn't help them to have any of their investigations taken by another government agency. It doesn't, nobody benefits from that situation. So we have to just kind of remember that when we're seeing all the stuff that you see in the news, right? That it's not all accurate, if you will. Yeah, I think that's most of my spiel. Does anybody have anything, questions about anything? We had actually an interesting case that I'll just bring up to you before we go. I don't know if any of you saw the nanny on Martha's Vineyard, who unfortunately left the toddler she was watching in the van. Did you see the news article on it? For 4 hours. Child subsequently passes away from hypothermia. It's been a brutal situation. But what I'll say is this is how weird things get. And when people are like, why wouldn't she be held for the rest of her life for that? And the DA's office is failing. The defendant has so much more right, so many more rights than we do, right? And I always want to remind people that is for your protection. Because if we were a society that could go in and sweep you out of your house and arrest you without due process and without a defense, it would be Nazi Germany all over again, right? So while people get very angry at us when they don't see what they think should happen, I like to explain our view on it and how it works. So this woman was a caretaker for a child. She was responsible for that child. She is on camera at her own home, leaving the child in the house for 4 hours. I mean, in the car for 4 hours with just no shoes on. The car is not running. It's clearly manslaughter. Absolutely, if not second-degree murder, because we could probably argue to say she absolutely knew what she was doing. Manslaughter to me really more says she went inside, used some sort of narcotic, fell asleep, and God forbid that happened, but it was an accident. This doesn't scream that to me. So again, this is where I say, my opinions of things and the DA's office being a political place is very unnecessary, really. My opinion is lock her in a van for 8 hours. That's where I'm at, because I mean, naturally, not because that would be anything that anyone would do, but I have 2 children. Like when I think about putting them in someone else's care, and that's what happens, I get infuriated, just as the community does. So before the child died, the judge, we asked for $50,000 bail. The judge implemented $2,800.
Good.
Why? Well, there's not a jail on the island that houses women. Dukes County only houses men. So he would have to send her here via boat to be at Barnstable, and that is an infringement of her rights, because then she doesn't have the same resources to get back to the island that she would if she were there. People are calling her office furious. How dare you hold her on? We wanted, me personally, I wanted her locked in a boat for 8 hours. It's not, this is not how any of this works. Well, then the child dies. So now the judge bumps the bail up to 21,000, because now it's become manslaughter instead of ABW. Well, she lives on the vineyard. She can afford that. Post it. Well, don't they call us again? Like, well, we asked her to be held without bail. This is not a situation where you can do that, because if we could just take people from their homes and hold them in jail, no one would be happy about that either. So we have to see both sides of it. Same thing with fraud. People are forever angry with us that we can't solve their fraud cases. You know, they get a phone call and they send thousands of dollars to someone and we can't get it back. Well, I can't get your bank records all the time, and you don't want me to. I shouldn't be able to walk into the bank and say, can I have his bank records? You wouldn't want someone to do that to you. You wouldn't want someone to have the ability to do that to you. So I always ask, especially when I'm in these meetings and I'm talking to people, try to see it from what, if you were on that side, if you were seeing it happen right then in front of you, would you want your rights infringed upon the same way? The poor defense attorney who lives over there, who got called to do the arraignment for that woman, no one will talk to him. You defended a murder? Well, everybody gets counsel in America, sir. What? Everybody gets an attorney. No one's calling the attorneys that are representing the male rapists over here and saying, how dare you defend them? But the mother on the vineyard, how dare you? Well, everybody has the right to an attorney, and you would want the right to an attorney had you been accused of something that God forbid you didn't do, right? Can you imagine if you were just like, yeah, you have no rights. Click. We can't. There's due process, right? So just, that's why I have these meetings. I want people to know where we are. I want people to know where our mentality is. And then I also want people, because I don't think they understand what the DA's office is all the time, to realize that we are literally, yes, Republican, Democrat, whatever the heck it is, MGL, Mass General Laws, is we work within the 4 corners of. And there's no room for our interpretation. That's just what it is. So we try to best serve in that capacity, but I leave these forums open to tell me if you, obviously your opinion of it is important to me, but yeah, I think I'm done barking at you, unless, does anybody have anything you want to share, or talk about, or ask?
Do you have any hope for the young people of today? That's the.
I do. I do, but I think that it's going to take a full force effort to, well, we need to get back to fact being fact, and not the perception being fact. And we need to, because what these kids see is perception, right? Like, people are not actually brazenly allowed to just fight each other in the streets and go on with life. We're not presenting an accurate representation to them of what life is going to be. And we're not presenting an accurate life representation when we tell them that you can disrespect your teachers and you can do all of these things and that your life is going to be fruitful. We're not doing them any favors. I do think that I think there's room for positive change, but I think the number one, we as adults need to advocate for these kids at our town meetings, at any source of income-based, federal funding that we get services for them here, because we are just outnumbered in terms of being able to help the way that we need to. And parents and grandparents are outnumbered. My mom is a young grandma. She's 65, thriving. I mean, she's out running with my kids all the time. She's certainly very savvy, has Facebook, does all the things. I mean, she wouldn't know how to handle a teenager right now versus what she faced with me. I had reprieve as a kid, right? So if I went to school on a Friday and I had a bad day and somebody was rude to me, someone was mean to me, I went home for the weekend. Then I came back Monday and it was gone, right? Or some other problem came up or some other distraction. That is not what we're facing here. We're allowing our kids to stay up all night on their phones in their room, charging there. They're just inundated. So now they've been bullied. Now that went to another person. Now that went to another person. Now all weekend we're doing this, right? Now all weekend we see that that group of friends is hanging out and I'm not invited. Now we see that. So we are not giving them, there is no time that those kids are shut off. That's the problem. I've been going to a bunch of workshops and things talking about the psychology and the anxiety amongst teenagers, and that so much of it is driven from this because they have to perform all the time. If you're not posting what fun thing you're doing with your friends, you're a loser. Nobody posts when they're home alone watching a movie with their parents, right? So one of the psychologists was talking about how she had implemented with her kids who are literally 16, 17, and 18 years old. Their phones charge in her room overnight. You go to bed at a normal hour and you're not. You do need to shut off. And she said it made a dramatic change in the mental health of her kids. Because they do need that sleep. They do need that time to not be inundated with negativity. And I mean, we know the news. I personally don't even have Facebook. I have no Facebook, no Instagram, none of that. I see enough negativity in the world. I don't need to inundate myself. I choose not to. But my mom, oh, I mean, I love her to death, but she'll come to me and she's like, did you see on Facebook that, you know, so-and-so did such and such and who's and who and what and what? And I'm like, do you not have enough issues of your own that you feel as though that this is a good idea? But we don't even realize we're taking it on, right? And then you're taking that on and you're taking, now we're asking these kids to take on things that they are not emotionally suitable to take on. Issues that they're not emotionally suitable to take on. Or to gauge or to mourn or to, comb through. We're asking them to do very mature things. And it's a catch-22. We're saying, here, be grown up. Be and understand all of these things. You want a phone and you have to understand the world. I think it's our job to say, no, you don't. You need to be a child for as long as possible. And what do we do to do that? I mean, yes, I will say my 6 and 8-year-old have those gizmo watches. No internet, no phone, no like camera, no anything. It's only that I can call them and it will automatically pick up, like they can't ignore me. And it also, it does track them. I have that on my phone. And I will full on admit that I absolutely do. But part of that is my own anxiety because I do active shooter training all the time at work. And my first thought was I'd never want my children without some sort of line of communication. But I know in my reality that I'm also taking a very big risk by giving them, well, you can only put numbers in that phone in the watch that you approve of. But even so, giving them access to that is giving them access to something that they don't need to be calling people yet. They don't need to be connected all the time, right? So it's both of our parts. Like we all have to, and I say we, your friends, your partner, whoever it is, all of us have to protect them a little more. I think we do. I think it's our job. And I think that for us as a society to say, oh, those damn kids is doing them a disservice. And I think that's what a lot of us have done. Kids these days. No. Kids these days are bringing guns to school because they saw it on TikTok. Kids these days are, I had 2 14-year-old boys who live in Chatham, Uber a 13-year-old girl down from Newton, do sexual things with her and film it and send them back. These are 13 and 14-year-olds. These are not kids that know any more about that than we did. Really, in reality, they just think they do. Because this has told them that they do. This has told them that they are adults. They shouldn't have an Uber app. Why does your child have an Uber app at 14? And why don't you know about it? Right? Like, Yes, before I was a parent, I was like, you can't blame a parent. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can, because I see these kids come in, first, they're a truancy issue, right? They're not going to school. Well, they can't get there unless you bring them. I've had a mom say to me, when I try to wake him up, doesn't want to get up. Ma'am, he's 13. Throw him over your shoulder and drop him there. What are we talking about? Or, well, he works and he pays for his cell phone, so I can't take it. Yes, you can. What are we talking about? Absolutely you can. And you should, if he's not complying and if he's not doing these things, because you are not preparing him for life. No one in life is going to say to you, oh, Kelly, you have a hard day, take the week off. I just got divorced and bought a house. I didn't take any time off. Yeah, you have a hard day. You have hard things in life. Things are going to hit you. Curveballs are going to hit you. But if we're not teaching coping skills, if we're not teaching them to be disappointed now, we're not doing them any favors. Teaching them that life is always going to give you silver platters and cupcakes is not doing them any favors. And that's what we've done with these. And I see it in my teenagers. I teach dance in addition to this. I've always danced my whole life, and now I'm a teacher at the same studio that I took from. I watch my kids who are 10, 11 years old get out of class and pull their iPhone out of their dance bag, calling people, texting. Last night, one of my 12-year-olds told me she has a boyfriend. His name is Shane. Let me show you our texts. Oh, I'm always going to be there for you, heart, heart. You're 12. You're 12. None of that is okay. I had an 8-year-old girl where the school called as reference because we can't arrest anyone under 12. But the school will call and be like, what do we do about this? We had a little girl who went to the principal because a boy wouldn't give her thing back until he gave her 4 kisses. She gave him 4 kisses. And, like on the lips, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, you're 8, right? And how she felt uncomfortable about it. And so the school goes, should we intervene? Yeah. You got to find out why that kid is expecting that to happen. What's going on in his house? Yes, you should. No, this is not minor children's play. We don't hold out people's materials for kisses unless this is we're learning this somewhere. And we have to, as the adults, go, something is wrong. And we are not going to be here forever. So we are leaving this world in the hands of people who are not equipped to handle it. So what do we want to do about it? Rather than sit idly by and be like, I understand that there are world problems and that we're talking about wars and we're talking about tariffs and we're talking about whatever the news of the day is. But the factual thing here is those kids are not going anywhere. It's not a 4-year term for them. It's not a 4-year term for anyone. It's life, right? So if we really need to just kind of buckle back down and go, all right, the outside world is always going to be the outside world. What can we control right here? And what we can control right here is our own surrounding communities, what's going on right here, and how much you want to implement and put energy into them, as opposed to how much energy you put into all the other political things and all these other things that we spend time reading and doing and fighting for and advocating for. We're losing sight, I think, a little bit of right here, like right in front of us, directly in front of you. What are we missing? What are we lacking? And how do we make it better? And then you start there, and then it ripple effects. So yes, long answer. I think there's hope. I think there needs to be action as well. But yes, I do. I do. And I have a lot of kids. Like for instance, I'm moving into my new house. I bought the house for my mother that she first bought when her and my dad separated. So it kind of came full circle, which is really cool. And I have a kid in diversion who started a junk removal business. So I'll give you 10 community service hours to come clean out my house. He's doing great. I mean, this was a kid that was doing horribly. He wasn't going to school. He wasn't doing what he needed to do. He was being a real dick to his parents. I mean, everything he said to them was constantly, no, shut up, this, that, this. Well, don't you know, he goes to see a counselor, he has bipolar 2. Undiagnosed. That's a huge thing to be undiagnosed for that long and not know where your emotions are at and not know how to handle them. Now he's medicated. He's doing fabulously. His dad said, if you get all A's, I'll get you a jump truck, if that's what you want to do. All A's that next term. His jump truck's coming to my house next week to pull out the junk. If we invest in them, they will rise to the occasion. But we have to be giving them what they need. And sometimes all it takes is for someone to go, what do you need? let's skip what you want. What do you need? And then we get to what you want based on handling what you already needed. Right? Like yes, we still want to serve, help you, do for you, but the right way, the proper way, and not the wrong way. Because if we started the wrong way from the beginning, I'm going to see these kids for the rest of my life. That's what I say to them at diversion all the time. I go, I never want to see you again. Not because I don't like you, because I never want you in this situation again. You're down here with people that are committing crimes. Like, that's not you. That's not who you are. Let's make a different narrative. So that's my hope, is that we're making a different narrative. That's always the hope. But
you know what I'd like to see
Yeah.
the difference in? We hear that bullying is prevented in
Yeah.
our elementary school, our
Yeah.
high school. And I've heard stories about parents going to the principal or going to the superintendent, going to the police. And well, the student that might be bullying, his dad might be a police, or the mother might be the head of PTO. Oh, those students wouldn't do that.
Oh, 100%.
And
that's when I tell those people to skip them and come to us. Because we police the police. And we police all of the areas. So if they feel as though there's a conflict, which a lot of times there are, you're absolutely right. There's extreme nepotism, and then there's like these like familial connections within people, and they're like, that mom does a lot for the school, you absolutely spread the word that you refer to the DA's office for those kind of things. Because we have to be, number one, impartial, but number two, if there is a complaint against I'm just saying a police officer in this, we're the people that we're the chief law enforcement agency on the Cape. So if they're not getting answers, Katie Green, who works in my office, or myself, we're the ones that then check back in with the schools, and we're like, hi, this person's been referred 3 times to the principal's office. We've heard 4 times that the mom has complained to you that something's going on with her child and nothing's been done. We want a meeting. And we'll have a meeting with the kid or the parent in the school or whatever it is to try to remedy the situation. And I think it's important because we're a neutral party. So it's better to bring us in that situation than it is to call your local PD. Unfortunately, the other thing is with that is our school resource officers, who are the people that were put into schools to police the children, they're not allowed to do anything anymore. These kids have more rights than, they can't stop you from disturbing a school assembly. That used to be like our major charge in diversion, was they can't do anything. If a teacher's being hit, they're supposed to maintain this position. You're not allowed to fight back or grab the child. It's the same thing with the SROs. There's a lot of weird red tape. So that's why I always say to refer to us, because we don't face that same red tape that they do in terms of being able to remedy those situations. Actually, and here, my card is, I'll give this to you. So that if you even want to give, if you're ever out and that happens, I think we might have one. Because I have,
No, I had one already.
You have one? Okay. But if that ever is a problem, or you feel like you want to make a referral, or you want me to make a call out to someone or something like that, or you want to pass that along, I welcome it. That's my cell phone number on there too, so it's, I can be reached all the time, which is probably part of my problem too. I don't sleep very much, but. You guys can take those materials with you. I think I'll leave. Oh, perfect. I think I'll keep these here in case anybody wants to grab them.
We don't want to leave it out.
And what I'll do, I'm gonna get them to them.
Oh, cool. I'll leave these
I'll
with you.
scan these in and email them to you, okay?
No, gotta make a phone call.
Oh,
Yeah, she nodded.
oh, okay. Yeah, maybe,
So are you able to do presentations with parents?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We do,
Get the message out.
yeah, we do cyber presentations, at all the schools, and then for parents, we actually recently just did one at, oh geez, what is the name of the school?
two handouts.
We tailored it to the Bayview, the special needs school, Warren. We went and did it there for them, which was great, and we had all these, there's some of them are adults, but with Downs, and they don't realize, the dangers of the internet either. So we do it to parents, we do it to kids, we do it to special needs adults and to grandparents. We have all of those cyber presentations, and then we also present at the schools so that they can all be present at the same time. I will say that the parent interaction is not wonderful. When we have these, they'll send the kid or,
No, they're probably working.
yeah, right, you know, it's hard to get, which I understand. I mean, I'm working all the time too. So,
You mentioned interventions or ways of helping the kids. Are you familiar with Brewster, the Stephen L. French camp?
yes, yes, we are. And I mean, and also the the sheriff's youth ranch, we use them as well.
One that Brewster had one called Moving Bound. It was
Yep.
a 35-day program.
It's a great
Before
program.
you got in trouble.
Exactly. And the sheriff's youth ranch has a couple of those where it's before and then a couple response programs where,
I did 10 years there in the jail section.
did you? That must be kind of rewarding, at least when you saw the good ones come out.
Some of those kids.
Don't you? You do. They leave a lasting impression. I mean, I do respite care for foster teens only. Only teens. Everybody wants a baby. Nobody wants the teens, right? So when they get taken out of their homes in the middle of the night or it's like an emergency situation, they come to me.
No.
Which has been really fabulous, actually, honestly. Thanks, Barbara and Mary Beth. We'll see you soon. Or actually, I don't know if I should end this because he's recording, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave it. Yeah, no, I do respite for foster care. So like if DCF goes in and removes teenagers in the middle of the night, they come and stay with me for the weekend. It's only for short-term care until they find more.
So Kelly, I have a question about, one of my teachers.
Yeah.
She's a grandmother, as you described, and she is custodian for her 10-year-old grandchild. Because her daughter does drugs.
Yeah.
Very typical story. And she was even thinking of giving up her job. She didn't know what to do because she's constantly talking about the issues she's facing.
I'm sure.
She thinks she's doing a terrible job.
No, it is not her.
And the other day she came in and said the 10-year-old threw all the pancake batter at her before she was ready to go out the door to go to class.
Mhm.
And she said, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know so for a 10-year-old,
Yeah, we have the Family Resource Center. I have so many resources that we can help with to help grandma have them in the house. They come and visits. They help with the mental health of the child.
so I could tell
Have her call me.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of doing.
Please do. Have her call me. We can set her up with, and not only that, but through foster care programs because I work with them through the foster closet and all
Good.
that. There's so many programs we can hook her up with, especially even for funding. You know, if she wants to do,
old.
well, and if she wants to do sports, she wants to get her into, you know, things to keep her busy. That's hard on her pocket. We have places that give money for that. I just had, we have 4 foster kids who are currently dancing at the studio and I put in for their costume bills. All I had to do was write like this short little
My
blurb.
own mind that I know.
$300.
If the kid is removed from her mother.
So
the
she's
mother doesn't
traumatized.
want her,
Of course not.
And she's living with her grandmother, doesn't want to be there.
Of course.
Oh,
Oh, thank you so much. It was so good to see you. See you next time. I'll be updating you on the next date. Yeah, no, absolutely have her call me because we
I
can
will.
set her up so that at least she feels like she has some support.
I see it falling through a hole and so I'm so
Well,
glad
of
we came
course.
today just because of that.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, and that's the thing is it's so overwhelming and
She is overwhelmed.
and that's, you know, it's not enough to the grandparent. It's that they're being asked, yeah, they're being tasked with things that they're not equipped for.
Right,
Like,
right.
they did their raising of the child, right?
Yeah.
And during a time where they didn't have to combat the rest of the world
Yeah.
as well. I mean, I feel like as parents now, we're like literally fending off whatever
Yeah.
evil is hiding whatever corner. And grandparents just aren't equipped for that.
I know.
So please do, because we'll hook her up.
I will definitely have her call.
Family Resource Center will do home visits. They'll go in and check on her. They'll get her funding for, you know, if she wants to get her into sports that she's worried about getting her into because of the expense, but she thinks would be better for her mental health.
Right.
They'll pay for that.
Are you familiar with their author, the Homeless Club?
No,
It's here on the Cape, in the Outer Cape. It's not just, he touts himself as, we're not just a club, we're a club with the heart.
I love that.
And they do have outreach, committees there to work with people.
Awesome.
Might be very helpful.
I would love that. I mean, please, wherever you feel like you, and I'm always willing to talk to people to tell them to call me, email me. It's like, that's what I'm doing. I want to be doing. So, especially because I think it's really just making people more knowledgeable about things,
Yeah.
and then realizing that we do have resources we're lacking, but we do have that are underutilized as well, right? Like that we
What's your time, John?
we're a good bridge for that. So.
All right, thank
It
you.
was wonderful to meet you guys.
Oh,
Thanks, John, for all your help.
You're welcome. Mary Beth raised her hand. I'm not
Oh,
sure
sorry.
if she.
Oh, hi. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I could not talk. We just drove like an hour and a half, but I just wanted to tell you, thank you for this really informative, really eye-opening presentation. Things that I knew nothing about were recent. We just moved to Cape Cod a couple years ago, but I'm from Boston. And anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I volunteer for Nauset Neighbors, and I was wondering if you're familiar with Nauset Neighbors.
He just brought that up to me. He just said it.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's like, have you heard of Nauset Neighbors? He's gonna give them my my card and my number and all of that.
Oh,
stuff.
great. Because
Actually,
yeah, I'm a volunteer. I drive people who cannot drive, and boy, would I love to drive a child somewhere or a grandparent somewhere that can't afford it or can't figure it out. I would.
oh my gosh, yes. No, 100%. I'm giving John my card.
Okay.
He'll scan it and send it to you guys if we have your
Excellent.
email. And then
Yes.
call me time. I'm happy to, we can chat and do all that stuff.
Great. All right. Sorry. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I can't even access my camera. I would show you who I am, but I'll be in touch. I really, really appreciate this. I'm a retired teacher, so I'm greatly invested in these issues.
I'd love to bounce things off of you as a teacher as well, so we can all
Sure.
learn from it.
Okay. Sorry about the camera. We'll talk later.
But I would be off camera if I could.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks,
Okay,
John.
Barbara,
Okay.
you're very
Bye.
welcome. Barbara, do you have any questions? You're muted. You're muted. Your microphone's off.
No, thank you. It was very, very interesting. I really knew nothing about this. I'm a retired RN, and it was fascinating to hear your description of the programs was really wonderful. Where are you located, Kelly?
I'm in Barnstable Village, so right in the court complex. There's two buildings right on 6A there. That's where I'm based out of, but I'm on all of it.
Okay, good. Oh, great to meet you, sort of.
You too. I hope to see you in my next one.
Yeah, well, thank you. I look forward to it.
I'll email you all the stuff that was handed out.
Okay, can I come over and get it, John, at
Oh,
the,
sure. Yeah, you can do that if you'd like.
yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll leave it. I'll leave this out here. Where should I leave it?
On your desk.
No, my desk is a mess. I'll probably leave it upstairs in the welcome area.
In the welcome area? What was that, the big room?
We're in the lower area right now, right? We
Yeah.
open the main door. We usually have a greeter right on the table. I'll
Yeah.
put it right.
Oh,
there.
yeah, on that table right there. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.